The book is titled Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Interesting, jaw-dropping, not clickbait title, but what he covers in the book, just to give you kind of a high-level synopsis of why he wrote the book as well as what he's covering. He spent, I think it was in his early 20s, the book documents it well, he spent some time being an actual monk. And those experiences, those learnings, the time that he spent being a monk, he learned a ton, ultimately decided that he had to walk away from being a monk, left the monastery and moved on with his life. And now you see him across social media. He's got a community that he hosts, a Genius community, which is where I bumped into him, as well as author of this book called Think Like a Monk, with all of those experiences. He also obviously has a podcast, On Purpose, which is phenomenal. So I recommend that if you want to, get your feet wet with Jay Shetty, that's a great way to do it. The first actual podcast that I listened to, I believe he had Kobe Bryant on, and then there was one with Jada Pinkett Smith that I thought was interesting. And so that just got me listening, tapping in with him. The things that he was sharing really connected with me at the point in my life when I found him. And then when he wrote the book, it was a no-brainer to start reading it. And I thought for our first book club series, this would be a great selection. So the book is all about taking everything that he learned while being a monk and applying it to everyday life, right? And applying it to everyday life. So again, if you know someone that can benefit from being on this current live audio, whether it's on Twitter, IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter Spaces, be sure to share that with someone right now. So send it to 10 people. Send it to 10 people if you're on IG Live, Facebook Live, and LinkedIn. Send it to some folks so that they can join in this experience. So the book has a total of 3 parts. It's titled Let Go, right? That's one part. Let go, grow, and then give. So let go, grow, and give. So through this book club, what we're going to do is we'll have 4 total parts to the book club. So every Thursday, 7 o'clock, you can tap in on whichever platform you feel most comfortable on. You can tap in and listen in to what we're discussing. And again, it won't fully ruin it for you if you're listening to this book club, because it's written in such a way that you can use chapters at a time. You can read at a part at a time. As I just mentioned, just depending upon what season you are in your life, you have the ability to actually section the book off. So it's not a book that you necessarily have to read from page 1 to the end. You can actually take pieces at a time, whatever feels most comfortable to you, which is why we thought this would be a great first selection. So with that being said, with 3 parts to the book, the first part being part 1, we'll cover Let Go tonight, right? So that's the first part that we'll cover. Then we'll cover the other 2 sections the following Thursday and the Thursday after. Then we're going to come back together that last Thursday and just have a discussion about how it's already impacted us. So I want you to tap in. I want you to keep coming back. That last night that we do, the last Thursday of the month, is going to be more of a conversation around the impact. So what I'll be sharing are some of the things that really stood out to me, that I thought were like, what do you call those? I think Oprah calls it aha moments. So we'll stick with that language of an aha moment. Let me just plug this extra charger in. Be sure none of these devices die. So she calls them aha moments. So whatever you want to call them, I'm going to be sharing my aha moments with you on this live. Okay? So again, if you haven't shared this with someone, be sure to do that. I guarantee you it will be something that will truly, truly benefit those that tap in. So the first point I want to share is in the first chapter. The first chapter being titled Identity. So that's the first chapter, identity. Right? So it's all about letting go, but the first chapter is titled Identity. And one of the first things that he talks about in this identity chapter was him actually trying to figure out what things particularly he was trying to uncover. Anybody that's in their 20s, just drop an emoji. If you're currently in your 20s or you've been through your 20s, drop an emoji if you remember, and or if you're going through your 20s. Can you remember that time period in your early 20s, whether that's right out of college, just about to get out of college? That time period when you're trying to figure out who you are, what you really want to do, even though you might have a degree, what you really might want to do, right? Think back to that time, because that's about the time that Jay was in, that period of time. That's the season he was in when he decided to become a monk. He was trying to figure life out, what he really wanted to do. And one of the things that I think is very interesting about his story is that he was bullied as a child. During his adolescent, early teen years, he was bullied. And so I think it all ties together when you understand that piece, along with him going to be a monk and then leaving the whole practice of being a monk and then doing what he's doing today. I think it's all very, very, very interesting. So one of the things he wrote about was this quote by Charles Cooley. Charles Cooley in 1902 said, "I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am." I'm going to repeat that because I listened to it on Audible, right? I had to stop it, and I probably had to listen to that like 15 times just to digest what he was saying. And what he was saying there is, one more, I'm going to repeat it again, and then I want you to raise your hand with an emoji or a chat if you caught it, right? I just want to make sure everybody caught it. I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So did you get that? Let me know if you got that. Just hit some likes on the IG Live or the Facebook Live or even in Twitter Spaces. If you got that, if you caught it, if you're tracking. I see Perry on LinkedIn Audio. Appreciate you joining us, Perry. I see Angela Williams. Man, so good to see you here. Daryl, good to see you as well. Kendall, man, it's been a minute. Good to see you. Jonathan, Alicia, all on LinkedIn Live. Let's see what we have on IG. We've got the North Coast Realtor. I see you, Tina. See you, Candyce. Thaddeus on Facebook. I see you. Did y'all catch that? I never heard that quote before. But that quote specifically, I see you, Stanley Jr. That quote specifically, it was jaw-dropping to me because at that point, it made total sense. I'm not necessarily what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I'm what I think. Just what I think that you basically think about me. It's oftentimes where people get hung up. Our identities are wrapped in what we think others think of us. That's basically what the quote means. Our self-improvement efforts can be tied to this as well. So if there's something you're trying to do, whether that's working out, changing careers, in a relationship, getting out of a relationship, if there's something that you're attempting to do, right, and be better at, our efforts, how we go about it, how we approach it, can oftentimes be tied to what we think other people think about us and what we're doing, right? We have so many persons and people in our life because of the amount of roles we play in our life, right? These people play in our lives and we play in other people's lives, that we're always thinking, right? We're always thinking about what others might think. It's human nature. Very difficult to shut that off because we were designed to be in community, right? We were put on this earth not alone, to be in community. So then we therefore think about what other people are thinking about our actions and who we are, how we look, how we dress, right? Our status in society. Big house, small house, nice car, okay car, right? Those are things that come into our thought processes, and it's very tough to turn off. But this can also lead us to, because again, it's just what we think people think of us. So whatever we're it might not even be true. That might not even be exactly how they feel. about who we are or what we're doing, chances are, and I say this a lot, they're not thinking about you. 100% chances are they are not thinking about you. If you think about what you personally have to do over the course of a day, especially if you have kids, young kids. Figuring out can be tough because we are chasing this imaginative idea about what we think others think about us. Deciding what your values are is key to moving through this towards your true identity. And then he asked the question in the book, are your choices aligned with those values? The things that you either think people think or what you truly want your true identity to be. Are your choices aligned with those values? Which set of values are they aligned with? The imaginative thing that we're thinking people think of us, or what we truly desire in life? He uses monk values to describe what values you should possibly look at them through. So there's a group of called higher level values, and then there's a group of lower level values. And I'll cover them here. The higher level values promote happiness and fulfillment and meaning. So that's how the monks bucketed higher level values, lower level values. The higher level values promote happiness, fulfillment, and meaning. So some things that might come to mind on higher level values that can manifest themselves: fearlessness, purity of mind, gratitude, deep study, straightforwardness, truthfulness, perceptive absence of anger, satisfaction, acceptance, integrity, determination, compassion for all human beings. Those are the rewards of higher level values. So if you have higher level values, those are some of the rewards. Fearlessness, purity of mind. One that stuck out to me was the absence of anger and compassion for all human beings. Those are just a few of the rewards associated with higher level values. Some of the rewards associated with lower value, or the lower values, before I get to the rewards. The lower values demote us towards anxiety, depression, and suffering, as he wrote in the book. Lower values demote us towards anxiety, depression, and suffering. Some of those can include these lower values, the rewards of a lower value, and I'm using the word rewards on purpose. The rewards of having the lower set of values, according to living in the monastery, were greed, lust, anger, illusion, envy, and ego. Greed, lust, anger, illusion, envy, ego. Strip away outside influence to really examine these values and the choices that you are currently making, was what Jay said in the book. This can become your guide, the community that you want your future to look like. If they possess the higher level values versus the lower level values, you can be in community surrounded by people like that, not necessarily worried about what they're thinking, because you all are focused on those higher level values. Another question he posed: when I spend time with a person or group, am I getting closer to or further away from who I really want to be? So remember, this chapter is all about identity. The question again is, when I spend time with a person or a group, am I getting closer to or further away from who I want to be? Are you giving the most time to the people who align most closely with your values? So while I might think I am the person that I think you think I am, if I align myself with people that have values, higher level values, that I'm looking to achieve and be in community with, that can also help me to achieve the things that I want to achieve in my life. So 2 big takeaways from chapter 1, then we're going straight to chapter 2. Was that quote, right? It's a phenomenal quote. If someone could drop it in the chat, whether that's, I don't know if LinkedIn audio has the ability to or not, but you guys let me know if they do. I think it's just reactions at this point and the ability to invite people. But on IG, Facebook Live, drop that in the chat. On Twitter Spaces, you can actually, there's a chat function. Drop that quote in the chat at Jay Shetty, as a matter of fact, because it's a powerful thing that he shared. And I want you to share with him how that has impacted you when you think about your identity and the things that you're looking to accomplish in your life. So moving on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 was titled Negativity. There's a principle called the 25-75 principle. For every negative person in your life, having 3 uplifting persons or people is Jay's rule. If you've got a negative person, which could be a family member, could be a friend, a spouse, you would hate that, right? But sometimes you're going to have negative people that you're just not going to be able to walk away from. You love them, but how do you offset some of that negativity or some of that energy? By having 3 uplifting people in your life. Because ultimately, if you keep going, they'll eventually follow. Spend time with people that are better than you in specific areas. When I think about the 5-Minute Career Hack and the team of co-founders that I get to work with every day, number one, I get to choose to work with them, which is amazing. Alicia Wade, Candyce Hunt, when I think about working with people that stretch me, that push me, that elevate me on a day-to-day basis to do more, be more, learn more, execute more, faster, they're it. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, right? Because we're focused on our health physically. Blooser gang in the house. If you don't have a Breville Blooser, you're missing out. We're juicing, we're blending, we're working out, we're committed to goals. They push me. I was committed to living a healthy lifestyle, right? But they elevate that. They push that. Their virtual accountability. None of us live in the same city, but their virtual accountability. So are you surrounding yourself, spending time with people that are better than you in a specific area? I'm fortunate, right? I'm fortunate because I have 2 queens that are challenging me in multiple areas at all times, every day of the week. But ask yourself, who are you spending time with that's going to stretch you, that's going to push you? Right? Expending energy, right? Giving advice and getting frustrated with people that don't take it is called being a savior. So he transitions quickly from who you spend time with for you to then who you spend time with in an effort to support them. So it's a dichotomy. That's 2 separate buckets, right? Because you'll have people that you spend time with that are investing in you, some way, shape, or form, good or bad. And then you'll have people that you spend time with that you may be doing more investing in them. Being a savior, he suggests, do not be a savior. Expending energy, giving advice, and getting frustrated with people that don't take it. Your desire to save other people is an ego response. That hit home because I love helping people. I love supporting people. I love mentoring people. I love coaching people. Those are just a few of my titles as far as being a servant leader. But the ego can get in the way. The ego can get in the way. Because that desire, right? That desire to save them can now motivate me in what I'm doing to help them. And they might not be looking for that from me. I go through this with my siblings all the time. Sometimes they just need to be able to vent. And I'm a problem solver by nature. But sometimes they just need to be able to vent and get it off their chest. And that might be what they're calling me for. Jay suggests through our Genius community that you just allow people to communicate with you why they're reaching out, and then be that person. Give them what they're asking for. And don't let my ego just problem solve and help fix the situation so we can charge forward and get in action mode, which is my personality. I've got to dial that back based upon what that person is looking for from me, and pause my ego for a second. Right? Real freedom, he says in the book, is letting go of things not desired. And that one took a minute for me to just let that rest in my spirit. And I'll repeat it again. He said, real freedom is letting go of things not desired. The unchecked desires that lead us to unwanted ends. So that goes back to that quote that I started with. If I'm thinking about what other people are possibly thinking about me, but it has nothing to do with what I really want to accomplish, that's unchecked desires that I don't even really want. I remember an argument, not even an argument, but when I declared my major in college, you go through that phase of saying, okay, this is what I want to do in life, and it might veer off the path of what your parents may want. And my dad did not want me to major in art. Although he was an artist, he didn't want me to major in art. I said I wanted to major in art. He's like, no, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer, so on and so forth. And we didn't talk for almost 6 months, right? But I had to step out on my own, make my own decisions. So the compromise to not totally disappoint him, because it was important that I make him proud, I majored in marketing. So I had a bit of the artistic flair, but still in business. And probably maybe 5, 10, 15 years after I graduated from college, he told me that I made the right decision, right? But that was a desire that I had, and it actually didn't have anything to do with him. So that's my reference point when I think about what Jay said in the book around real freedom and unchecked desires that lead to unwanted ends. If I would have just solely focused on making sure I was making my dad proud, I would have probably majored in something that I didn't want to major in, be in a career that I did not want to be in, and be unhappy. So after I let that quote sink in a little bit, what it did for me was understand that's my measuring point. Because of all the people in the world, if I could check my desire to make my dad proud, if I could check that part of my ego, right, and make sure I was really focused on what I wanted, if I could do that with him, then there shouldn't be anyone else basically on the face of the earth that I shouldn't be able to do that with, as far as what they might think, or my desire to people please, or whatever that might look like. So that was my marker, if you will. So I hope that you're thinking, somebody put that I can relate to that. And that's what I did. Exuberance is me. And then Keish Lova, I think is what it is, on IG Live, said that I can relate to that. So you got to find a marker so that you can relate a lot of what Jay is talking about and leverage it, because there's times in your life where you've probably gone through things, whether you made the right choice or not. You will have a reference point, and now you have a new set of glasses that you can look at certain situations and understand, is this my ego in play, wrong, right, or indifferent, or is this what I really want? Because my desire is to have real freedom in what I'm doing in my life. The next bucket he talks about a little bit is letting go of negative thoughts. The key to real freedom is self-awareness. Small actions have consequences. And so when I think about small actions, and I think about things that can have a much bigger impact in my life, and you should probably be thinking about what might be happening in yours, oftentimes by the time you get to the big fiasco in life, there's a series of events that led you straight to that point. Whatever that situation is that you might be thinking about, there were small things that led to that point. And sometimes those things are negative thoughts. Being able to control those, being able to hear them in your subconscious mind and not allowing them to turn into a small decision of, for example, I had a jam-packed day from 5:45 to now, jam-packed day. And I could have easily said, I'm going to just skip the gym because I've got to do this book club tonight, right? I could have easily started that negative path of thought in my brain, but instead all day I was saying, man, I can't wait to work out, can't wait to get that workout in. It'll be perfect. My energy will be high for the book club. I'm going to get that workout in. It's going to be good. That's the conversation that I was having. I never let the thought enter that I should just take the break. Not saying that you don't need breaks from time to time, but I never let that thought enter my mind. And that's just one small example of something very small, like a thought. One of the smallest things on earth is a thought, right? Because you can't even see it. It's just happening in your brain. You have millions of them in a day. But that small thought, especially if it's negative, can be one of the biggest derailers to your freedom. And those small actions that your thoughts turn into have major consequences, good or bad. One of the things he suggests, and then we'll move to the next chapter, is his solution is, he calls it spot, swap, stop. Spot, stop, swap. So you have to spot the feeling of negativity. Somebody type that in the chat if you've got a chat or if you're taking notes. Give me an emoji on LinkedIn audio. Same thing on Twitter Spaces. You have to spot the feeling of negativity. Then you have to stop to consider why you might be feeling that. Amend your behavior and then swap in a new way to handle it. So whether that's in the spiritual bucket, the emotional bucket, the financial bucket, relationship bucket, whatever that might be, spot, stop, and swap. So you're going to identify it. You're going to take some time to understand it so that you can then turn around and amend it and have a different reaction, action, and or behavior going forward, and then eventually erase the negative thought over time. Thank you. Thank you for dropping that in the chat on IG. So I'm going to just this last one point, because I want to make sure I get to this next chapter. But this last point that he mentioned in chapter 2 was forgiveness relieves stress. Don't have enough time to talk about that section, but it was a good one. That's all I'm going to say. It was a good one. I can't cover every nugget he dropped. There were bars throughout this book from page 1 to the end. I take my notes in Audible, so I'm able to keep them with me while I'm on the go as a reference point. And it's of all the books that I've listened to in Audible, which is well into the, probably getting close to the hundreds. This section of notes where I clip and bookmark, it might as well have been the whole book. But that last one, that section, he covers forgiveness, relieves stress. I'm telling you, if you have some time, if you can listen to it on Audible or purchase the book, I would strongly, strongly recommend. Chapter 3 was fear, right? Chapter 3 is fear, and then we'll wrap it up with a few points from chapter 4, which is intention. So in chapter 3, he covers your responses to fear, which are panic, freeze, run away, or bury. Those are some of the responses that we tend to have as human beings to fear. Panic, freeze, run away, or bury. And all of those ultimately become distractions. And I was like, man, that's powerful, right? Because when there's fear there, it doesn't enable you to focus on what you're actually doing. It's a distraction. And I never heard it phrased that way, that fear is actually a distraction. And it's really the things that happen when your responses to fear that become your distraction. Perception of fear must change in order to use it as fuel. And again, this is something that I never thought about because I wanted to rid myself of fear in most areas. Do I still have them? Yes. I don't like snakes. Yeah, it's probably more a phobia. And I know people are afraid of public speaking. That's probably number one. I know people that are afraid of heights. That's another common fear. But the perception of fear must change in order to use it as fuel. I never really thought about using it as fuel. Not going to go get a boa constrictor and wrap it around my neck anytime soon because I don't like snakes. Probably a phobia. Still not going to happen. Just being frank. Don't ever. My heart is actually racing just thinking about it. I have to check my heart rate real quick because I could feel the tension in my chest when I think about a snake. Right? And I'm sure you're thinking about your fears. For those of you that have a chat function, drop some of those in the chat on Twitter Spaces. Drop in the chat, what's your biggest fear in life? Is it something like a snake? Is it heights? Is it fear of public speaking? What are some fears that you might have? Drop it in the chat. I know we can't necessarily do that on LinkedIn audio to my knowledge, but what are some of the things that you might fear? And some of those, fear of drowning. That's an interesting one, Candice. And I know you were a lifeguard, right? Just let me know. I think you're a lifeguard, a trained lifeguard. So a fear of drowning, is that why you ultimately started working to be a lifeguard? Fear of failing. That's what someone dropped. Tina dropped fear of failing. Fear of failure. John dropped that. Jay Shetty suggests and think like a monk. To track fears back to the source, you will find they are closely related to attachment. Our need to own and control things. Right? So let's just use the snake for an example, right? Because I feel like it's more of a phobia. I don't know if I put it in the fear bucket. But yes, maybe I feel like I can't control the situation when face to face with a snake. That's probably the source. I'm not going to even lie. That's probably the source. If it's fear of speaking, is it an incident that may have happened early in life? Somebody mentioned heights, drowning, being alone. That's a big one. That's a big one. You're never alone. But being alone is absolutely something that I know people are afraid of. So finding the source of that and our desire to be in control of the situation. He says in the book, detachment. I want you to write this down. Write this down. Detachment is the ultimate way to handle fear. Detachment is the ultimate way to handle fear. Clinging to temporary things gives them power over us. Sources of pain and fear. When we accept the temporary nature of things in our lives, we can feel gratitude for borrowing for a period of time. Which is in part what you're going to do by releasing the things that you might be experiencing from a fear standpoint based upon something that may have happened in your past or in your life that could be causing you to feel this. So that detachment is key. Fear also, he said, which I thought was so important. Fear makes us fiction writers. Fear makes us fiction writers. I'm going to say it again. Fear makes us fiction writers. So each and every one of us today, I deem you an author. I deem everyone that's listening, everyone that's watching on Facebook Live, IG Live, LinkedIn Audio, Twitter Spaces, if you're watching or listening, fear makes us fiction writers, and each and every one of us is an author. So what are you writing right now? What's the story that you're telling yourself right now? Because you're anticipating future outcomes that, frankly, there's no way, and this is just from the book of Jamila, as I'm starting to call it, Songs by Jay. You're anticipating future outcomes, and there's not a single solitary person on the face of this earth that knows what's going to happen in the next minute. Can we prepare? Can we be ready? Can we learn things? Can we do things to be in a situation and hope that we're ready? Absolutely. But there's no way for you to know what's going to happen in the next second. And if we haven't learned that through what's happened with COVID-19 over the last couple of years and our inability to control that situation and be on lockdown, then we should fully know that we can't control future outcomes. But it ultimately, as Jay said, it's like a prison in our imaginations. So that being an author and then ultimately having fear make you a fiction, not a fact, but a fiction-based author based upon what you're thinking will ultimately make you a prisoner inside of your imagination. Now, I thought that was just like, so we can ultimately imprison ourselves with our fiction writing about fear, about something that we don't know about in the future and how it's going to play out. But just with our imagination, that's how powerful our brain is. That we can make up an entire storyline. I've done it. I'm sure most people have. You can make up an entire storyline about what something is going to be in the future, and it never end up being that. And it never end up being that. We are natural storytellers, Jay says in the book, against us by creating a bunch of false narratives. We are natural storytellers against us by creating a bunch of false narratives. So we're fighting against our own selves by creating these fictitious stories, sometimes associated with fear, sometimes just associated with people think about us. And I don't know about you, but again, I think about how do I now control that? Because I don't want to tell fictitious stories about something in the future that I have no control over and I don't know what's going to happen. Man, just thinking about that whole process, knowing that that process is true, having instances where I've fully done that and I can reference, knowing that it's true, I know there's not enough time in the day for me to do that, and I can't predict the future. I can't predict the future. And I cannot create these false narratives about a future outcome that I have no control over. So now it's time to detach. Type the word detach in the chat. Type it on Twitter Spaces, IG Live, Facebook Live. Type the word detach. Detach yourself from those false narratives and let's go be the author. Let's go be the author of what we truly want. What our true desire is, not the unchecked desires, but what we truly, truly want. Let's be the author and architect of that. Not the fictitious, imaginative things that we're thinking, the negative thoughts, and or what we think someone else might be thinking of us. Let's detach from all of that. Now we're going to move forward to chapter 4, and we're going to wrap up this book club for the night. I appreciate you all joining me. This last chapter is titled Intention. Intention. But before I get into this chapter, I just want you to hit the like button. I want you to share this with someone. If they weren't here tonight and they need to be here, I want you to go out, and if you feel like you need to read the book or not, buy it for someone else if you feel like it could bless them. But let me know just by tapping the like button. I like a little interaction. Give me some reactions on LinkedIn audio. Angela, Mercedes, Daryl, Perry, Candice, Alicia, let me know. Thaddeus on Facebook Live, Twitter Spaces. Let me know. Let me know. Right? Let me know that this has helped you. Let me know that this has blessed you. Okay? The last chapter. The title of the book is Think Like a Monk. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. That's Jay Shetty. Shetty. He also has a podcast, On Purpose. If you want to find out a little bit more before you maybe buy the book or read the book, I think he's well over 100 episodes. He's interviewed some phenomenal people. He does 2 podcasts a week. One where he interviews someone, and a second podcast where it's just him sharing wisdom and things that he's learned that have helped him. Chapter 4 is titled Intention. intention. So society's definition of success, right? So pop culture, celebrities, and rewards for pursuit of success. And you've probably seen this on social media, may have even seen it on LinkedIn. Celebrating and rewarding the pursuit of success. That can oftentimes lead to those unintended desires, because you see someone, especially on LinkedIn, as much as I love the platform, been on it for over a decade, a lot of times you get those notifications on LinkedIn and someone just got a new job, someone just got promoted, someone just left the job, and it's just this constant feed of, and you're congratulating people, you're happy for them, right? But it can energize you to think that you need to do something and maybe you don't, or maybe you do. But this whole thing around success that we promote and reward can often have you thinking about rewards versus what you really want. Maybe you don't want to be the CEO of a company. Maybe you want to do more giving back. Maybe you wanted to start a nonprofit. Right? Candyce said external comparison. Someone said, thank you for inviting me. That's awesome, Asher. Thank you for inviting someone. That just inviting someone is a way to pour back into you, because you're giving out what's so abundant in your life and sharing with someone that ultimately it'll bless you. It'll come back around. So back to it. Perform work that matters. Perform work that matters to you, not to me, not to what somebody else may think, not in my case to what my parents may have thought. Perform work that matters to you, that blesses you. Without a reason to move forward, we have no drive. Without a reason to move forward, we have no drive. Man, when I think about losing my grandmother on my dad's side, I was extremely close to, man, she's an amazing woman. Like, I miss her every day. And trying not to get emotional as I think about her. I remember the last probably 30 days, 60 days of her life. And I can remember, as much as she loved us, as much as she cared, as much as she wanted to be here, her reasons and hope for the future were waning. I could hear it in her conversation. She was starting to plan out, because she was a boss. Clearly, that's where I get it from. She was a complete boss, like bossed everybody around in her family, her older siblings, younger siblings, and had mad respect across the entire state. But she was a boss, so she was giving orders, directions about her funeral, you name it, how things should go. And those in the Black community, she made it clear, you do not hold the body. Once I'm dead, the service should happen the following weekend. She was very, very clear. If they can't make it by then, they don't need to be there, right? That's what she said, literally out of her mouth. I'll never forget it. And I'm a little emotional, because I'm like, no, you're living, you're going to make it. Like, what are we talking about this for? That's years from now. You're perfectly fine, right? But what I could hear in other parts of her conversation were the reasons to move forward. And she was getting tired. And she lived a long life, well into her 80s. But I could see that drive was starting to wane. And not long after she kind of orchestrated what she wanted for her final services, she was gone, probably within a week, maybe 10 days later. So what that taught me was, if you're not hoping, looking forward to, as Jay says, loving something, launching something, or learning something at all times, that desire to move forward can wane. So if you're focused on someone else's dreams and not your own, that drive to move forward can wane, and you can get in this habit. And I know there was a point in my corporate career where I was in this habit of just doing the same thing over and over again. And I got really good at doing the same thing over and over again. Unhappy. But I could do it because, you know, we can get robotic as human beings, and I'm going to show up to work, I'm going to do my job, and then I'm going to leave, then I'm going to get up, and I'm going to do it over again. But over time, that's going to deteriorate you as a person. Jay says, when we live intentionally, with a clear sense of why what we do matters, life has meaning and fulfillment. Intention fills our car with gas. Now, I don't want to get into a conversation about the cost of gas right now. That's not what we're here for today. But when we think about filling our tank, our personal tank with gas, what we're intentional about, what our intentions are, will ultimately give us the fuel to push forward. Focus on questions, he says, versus looking for answers to close out those fears. Get to the root cause of your desire and ask why. Finding the intention for what you want, start by asking yourself why 5 times to dig deep. And any of my fellow former retail acquaintances understand that ask 5 why times really well. Drop a like if you know and you've been taught that, whether that anywhere in corporate America and or via retail, you've been told that too many times. But now we're going to use it for our own, to find the root of our own desires, right? Start by asking why 5 times. So if you say, I wish my partner would do whatever. I wish my job was whatever. Finding out why you wish your job was this or you wish your partner was this by asking yourself 5 times the question why, so that you can get to the heart of your desire. With your partner, it's probably simply because you want to feel loved, right? I hate to just wrap that one up in a bow real fast, but chances are it's just because you just want to feel a little bit of attention and love in a certain kind of way from your partner. That might be all it is. From a job standpoint, getting past the status stuff, the title stuff, understanding truly why you're doing what you're doing may cause you to say, that's not what I really want to do anymore. Be ready for that when you do this exercise. Especially for my retail buddies, we're used to like having that question directed at someone in an operator setting and or in a corporate setting where we're just asking these questions to get to what's best for the customer, what's best for this product line, and what's best for this store team or whatever that might look like. But ultimately, let's start focusing on us a little bit here. Just take a little time for you. If you don't do anything else after joining this book club tonight, I want you to take some time to set your own personal intention. Right? And it may not be something you figure out right away, but I hope this dropped into your soul, into your spirit, into your mind, into your physical being enough for you to think about it. Are you doing exactly what you want to do in all areas of your life? Or are you doing what someone else wants you to do? Or what you think somebody else wants you to do? Life is entirely too short. It's entirely too short to not know exactly what you want, why you want it, to be able to get to where you want to go. It's entirely too short not to be focused on those things. Even if that's, I want to pick up an old hobby of mine. For example, and I'll end with this tonight. And again, just drop some emojis, some like buttons, whatever you have at your disposal to let me know if this has blessed you in any kind of way. One of the things that I've always said that I was going to start doing again after I stopped doing it at around 22, 23 years old was I said I'd eventually get back to coaching. And I kept saying it, and before you know it, 22 years had passed. Actually, 19 years, because I stopped coaching in like 03. 19 years had passed, and I still hadn't, but I was waiting on God to lead me. And then the opportunity came up around Christmas time. I started coaching again, and that turned into bigger and bigger commitments as time went on. But it's something that I've always enjoyed doing, and I said I would get back to it when I was ready, on my time, when I knew I had something to offer. And that I would be motivated solely because I wanted to give. And that opportunity presented itself, and I said, sure. As each door opened, I said, sure. I might not be able to commit 100% on schedule, but I'll be there whenever I can be there. And it has been one of the biggest blessings for me personally. And I hope the kids, if any of them are watching, they've been blessed. But it's been the biggest blessing to me. It's been the biggest reward. It's been so gratifying, challenging, learned a lot. For my 13, 14-year-olds that I'm coaching, man, they different. I know our parents probably thought this about us, but these kids are different, okay? They are so different. If you got a 13, 14-year-old, man, I understand. They are different. I love them to death. They have truly blessed me. I've learned a ton about myself. I learned a lot about what they're facing, also what I'll continue to face, and how we can help them to better equip them to navigate it on and off the court. And I hope I continue to be a blessing. But me doing that is solely for Jamila. It's solely for me. It's solely what I desire. It's solely what I enjoy. No one else has anything to do with that decision that I made to start coaching again. Do you have that in your life with what you're doing with your life? Personally, professionally, in relationship? Do you have that spiritually, emotionally? Are you doing what you desire? Not what others think, not what you think others think, but is it truly about you? So I'm going to end there for tonight. We're literally right at the 8 o'clock hour, so it's perfect timing. Be sure to tap in next Thursday. If you decide to pick up the book and read and or Audible, awesome. I'd love to hear from you. In between now and then, anything that helped you, anything that blessed you. But I would only ask, my only ask, because I'm a giver, I'm a servant leader, is that you share with other people that you feel like 1 hour of listening about things that are specific to just you. Because we're not talking about necessarily your kids, but I challenge you to invite someone to next Thursday. Again, the book is sectioned off in such a way that you can ultimately read a section at a time, even a chapter at a time, and it'll change your life. I hope this blessed you as I end every podcast. And special shout out to the entire team at the 5-Minute Career Hack for presenting this first Think Like a Monk book club. But as I end every podcast, if no one's told you today, I love you and have a wonderful rest of your evening. And I'll see you all next Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time, on wherever you tap in with the 5-Minute Career Hack, on myself, Jamila Brown. Have a great night, and I'll see you soon.